This is a reel. This is a rod. This is the spool. This is what will determine, in most cases, whether you get thrown off the water or not. All right? Now, oh yeah, get into place. This reel is packed with mono line. Total mono. There is no backing. The reason is, again, due to interpretation. If I'm at a lake and that lake says you must use mono line, and I have this out and they notice that I'm starting to feed back into a braided backing, you're off the water. Other parts of this. This is the drag. This is where you set how hard and your weight drag on how hard that fish is going to be able to peel that line off during a fight. Your second part is this one. This is the free spool. If I was to open this, this thing would just spin freely. Now what happens in most cases, people will unset the drag or set the free spool and then set the rod down. This way the fish does not drag the reel, the rod and the reel into the water. The trouble with it is, if it's doing a good run, it can cause a bird's nest or backup in here. It can cause you to lose the fish, it can damage your line, all sorts of things. Many, many years ago, whoa, dang, close to almost 30 years at the making of this video, I switched to a different rod type, a reel type, when I came to Germany. And it was the first time I'd seen a reel like this, and I will never go back to the others. This thing is a universal reel. I can do bait casting, I can do bottom fishing, I can do drop lining, I can do jigging. Anything I can do with this reel. A reel about like this will cost you about 25 to 30 euro. The bigger the reel, the bigger the spool, the more expensive it is, also whether it's a brand name or not. The reason I like this reel so much is these two little additions back here. This is a clutch system. I can set this and then I can adjust it here, and it determines how fast this will feed off. Okay, so depending upon what I'm fishing for, I can set this. My smaller rods, I have a lighter set because I'm going for like bar, bream, and stuff like that. Larger rods, where I may be going for 20, 70-pound fish, of course I will adjust it accordingly. The neat thing is what happens is I set this clutch and the fish feeds the line out. Now when I pick the rod up, all I do is, and I want you to watch this right here, is I pick the rod up and I go to reel it in, and that clutch engages. So one thing I hate about mono, I prefer braided, but there's reasons not to use braided. We'll get more into that in a minute. But what this does is it locks this and automatically kicks my drag in. No more free spool, no more having to try to reset my drag to hook the fish and all of that. It's all done here. Well worth the extra 5 or 10 euro that I pay for this rod over one that does not have this. In some cases, the rods that don't have this are even more expensive. I've seen them run up to 300 euro. So when you're going out, if you're going to be buying rods, this is something to look at. Also, the other thing, every one of my rods comes with a double spool. I have one set of rods that the reels that I bought, I could not get extra spools for. The spools did not come with them. So I bought 2 rods, 2 reels in order to do this. On some lakes, they may tell you only braided line. That means braided line may be used on the main reel as well as your leaders. Some will go main line or main spool must be mono or braided. This leaves the determination open to the leader material. If it says that because of a lot of lily pads and stuff, that I can use braided so it cuts through those lily pads and doesn't stretch as bad as a mono would, I would still use a mono leader, because monofilament line takes about 5 to 8 years to deteriorate. Braided line can take up to over 10 depending on its thickness. And I don't want a fish running around with that in its mouth. Another thing, as we discussed with hooks, this is another reason I use barbless hooks. They can work that hook out and get it out of them, shake it out much easier than if that's even a micro barb. So I carry 2 spools for each reel. One is spooled only with mono, one is spooled only with braided. They have no additional backing material on it. And that's the reason why. So if you're going, the thing that you got to look for that I would suggest is, 1, if you're going to buy a reel, get one with the back clutch system. 2, make sure the reel comes with a second spool, or check before you purchase the reel, check everything and make sure that you can order one as a backup spool. That way you can have one with mono, you can have one with braided, and no matter where you go, all I have to do is switch those 2 spools out, and I'm not having to totally rewrap my line every time I go to a different lake, or if I go to a different country or whatever. So that's it on reels, lines, and spools. Let's move on. Okay. So let's have a look here. When I set up, you have to have your basics, all right? Your required items. I have to have my measuring tape, my scales, depending upon what kind of fish, my unhooking, my baton or bat, my knife. One extra thing that I carry with this is a 3-point knife sharpener. How can you humanely and quickly kill a fish and field dress it or field dress it if you do not have a sharp knife? Okay? That's it. My rods, my bait, whatever. And that is the basics of what you need to go fishing. All right? So, let's move on to how I set up my fishing. So, this is a weather shelter. They can come as halves, they can come as just big umbrellas. Whatever you pick is up to you. It's mainly to keep you out of the sun. If it's extremely cold out, it keeps you out of the cold weather, and the rain, the snow, whatever it happens to be. A weather cover. This is a trick. You'll notice in here, there's no floor. That's because if there was a floor, I would be camping. Unvolved camping or wild camping is illegal. I could be fined, and I could be thrown off the water. It's a technical thing. I have some lakes where I am allowed to camp. When we were looking at that lake permit earlier in the slideshows, you noticed it had specific hours that I could fish. So the adage of one hour, what is it? It's 1 hour before official. It's 1 hour before official sunrise and 1 hour before official sunset is not always true. All right, you need to look at your water permits. You need to look at which state you're fishing in, and there's a lot of different factors that have to be considered. The one thing you do not want to do is if you're doing a day permit where there's no camping and so on, you do not want a floor in this. Some of them come with detachable floors. This one just comes as is, but I have a walk around for that if I'm camping. I have five different types of weather structures. So depending if it's a camping, it's a non-camping, if it's a river, whatever, I have particular ones that I set up for that. This is for this particular video. So no floor, weather shelter. Floor, camping. Wild camping, illegal. Okay? So when I first get out of my van, I open up my tackle box, and the first thing I take out of my tackle box is one of these two little puppies. Headlamps. Because remember, if I'm in Loitershousing on that one lake, fishing starts at 5 a.m. I may not get sunrise until 7. Or I may not get sunrise until 6. No light. I want to be able to rock in at 4 o'clock, set all my stuff up, sit down, have a warm cocoa or whatever before I start my fishing. Then at the end of the day, that's 10 p.m. at night, it's either dusk in the summer or it's dark in the fall and winter. So again, I need something to be able to put all my stuff away. I keep 2 just in case one goes bonkers on me. In the van is additional batteries. Now, I have a set way of putting things up and taking things down. The first thing that comes out is my shelter. In there is my stakes, a hammer, and most importantly, a piece of tarp. Now this piece of tarp is not for a floor. Since I'm typically setting up before sunrise and so on, the ground may be wet. I may be coming out in the ground, may have snow on it, or ice, frost, whatever. I do not want to get all my covers and everything wet. So this goes into the back of my there. That is cut so it is not as large as the entire area, so it shows I'm not camping. However, if I'm at one particular lake and I'm allowed to camp, that is also cut so I can have my stuff on the floor and put my bunk right up over it. Dual purpose. However, it's not totally covering the floor. It shows spacing around all the edges, especially in the front. It's only 2/3 as wide from front to back as the shelter is, so I am not camping. On this then would go my shelter cover, hammer, additional items, would go my rod covers, anything I do not want to be on the ground. All right. The next thing that comes out is my ground cover. See this green piece here? You can see through it. It's basically used for like greenhouses. On this goes my table. On my table sets up all my stuff. This way, if a warden comes by or whatever, I can show him that my gear is set up for immediate access. very important. Remember, the rule is you must land, unhook, and either then release or stun and kill the fish in a expedient, humane manner. So if I'm having to land a fish and then I have to leave him there whopping all over the ground or whatever to get my stuff out of a tackle box, that is a no-no. I am not executing this in an expedient and humane manner. I'm letting the fish suffer due to my negligence. That's a finable offense. The next thing, once my gear is up, my tackle box is back over here on the side. The next thing I set up is my landing and killing mats. So let's move this out a little bit. There is different kinds of landing mats. This one folds out. It's fairly large. What I'm going to do is, this is a piece of pond foil. I'm going to take this pond foil and I'm going to lay it out. And I already have folds where I want it to go. And this is basically to keep the sun from overheating it. It is black. I'm really looking for something different, but most pond foil is black. This is my landing mat, my unhooking mat, if you will. It's going to go here. Next to this, and I don't know if you can see it or not, is my foldable bucket. So once this is set up, I take my bucket, throw it out, fill it with water. I'm going to open my landing mat, my unhooking mat is what it's called, and I'm going to coat it with water, liberally. And then I'm going to close it. This is cushioned, it's foamed, it will stay moist, and importantly, it will not let that water heat up in the sun. My mat then will then get folded. I will put water on it, then I will refold it back over this. So that is now set up. I have water in my bucket, okay? Once that's done, I move to the next part. My next part and yes, this is down, this is down. The next part is I put my table up and I put my gear on it. During this time, all of my covers are going in and onto my water protection mat. The next thing that comes out is my net. Remember, if I have rods rigged and hooked, before my time to go in that water, I can be fined, and it's illegal because it shows intent before the appropriate time. So the American motto is the first thing in is your rod, the last thing out is your rod. That is not true in Europe. The last thing in is your rod, the first thing out is your rod. So I pull out my net. Goes into the back. My net is nylon, but it is coated with a rubber coating. This is to protect the fish. Okay, it's also to make it easier to clean. If I go up to like Ireland, we have to, there's at different parking where you park to go fishing. Each area is required to have a dipping station, and I've got to dip these nets in there and any of my other gear that may have come in contact with the water itself. to ensure I'm not transferring razor mussel larvae or anything. This net, most people think about taking a net, pulling and picking the fish up and pulling it in. No, these nets are designed for heavy fish, but to be lightweight. So like here, you'll notice there it folds. There is no hard piece up here. It's only these two pieces over here. What you do with this is once you land the fish, you scoop in, the fish goes into the net, and then I lift the net up this way. I move my fish over, and I commence my process. We'll get into that later. Now that my net is done, I'm going to set it out near the water. If I'm fishing, I need it near the water so that I can access it quickly in my fishing area. All right, done. At this point, I could bring my rods out and go fishing. I have a few other extra items that I put out. It's not required, it's for my convenience and to allow me to better be able to handle, monitor my rods and everything. So let me get those set up and I'll show you that in a minute. This is my rod pod, or my rod holder. Okay? It can hold up to 3 rods. Now, you're going 3 rods, but I thought you could only have 2 rods in Bavaria. And you would be right. I can only have 2 rods in Bavaria. However, if I go fishing in France, I can have 3 rods. The same with some other countries and so on. Some only allow 1 handheld rod. It depends on which country you're in. And also, here in Germany, you're told you cannot keep a live net to keep them in. Some places do allow you to do this. It's in different states. They have actual requirements on the length of what the length of the net has to be. And if you're buying one, you would have to talk to the tackle shop that you're at. They'll know more about those regulations than I would. But this can hold up to 3 rods. And what it does is when a fish bites and runs with the line, it will actually beep, it will light up, and I've got a remote that if I'm in my tent and I'm taking a snooze, it will actually also beep and buzz. So technically, my rods are monitored all the time. Even if I'm sitting there reading a book, or I may be listening to something on my phone, or whatever. But because of this, my rods fit the regulation because they are being monitored at all times. So, the last things that come out is my chair, my rods, and then I have 3 other items. My baits, my 12-volt ice chest. This can be either ran off of battery or solar. I've got solar panels and additional 12-volt batteries for same. And that's to hold my food, drinks, whatever. I have an additional basic carrying insulated ice chest that I pack a very specific way with I keep 2 bags in there, one for fish offal and one for the fish that I'm keeping. Why would I keep 2 bags, you say? Well, the German law states that you cannot throw dead fish or dead fish parts onto the ground, in the woods, or in the water. If they catch you doing that, you're automatically your license is confiscated, you're thrown off the water, you're fined, and possibly other repercussions. So that's how I do that. That's how I get over that. My van, of course, has my toilet and everything in it, so I'm not Waldpinkel, Waldscheiße, wild peeing or wild shitting, either in, near, on, around the water, or in the local habitat. So we're set up at that point. That's basically it.